Deep Rock Galactic Survivor is a... What are we calling this genre anyway? Vampire Survivor-like? Auto shooter? I've seen auto shooter survivor or ass floating around too. Anyway, whatever it is, Deep Rock Galactic Survivor is a run-based top-down take on DRG, heavily inspired by games like Vampire Survivors but with dwarves, mining and miniguns. It's still in early access, set to hit 1.0 later this year, and despite a few frustrations I have with it, it's something I keep coming back to over and over again. It also manages to do a few things better than other games in the genre in my opinion. So without further ado, let's get into it. If you never played a game like this before, let me explain it real quick. It's very simple. You move your character around, automatically attack enemies, pick up experience to level up, and choose between stackable upgrades that slowly make you more and more powerful. Enemy waves scale over time, and your goal is usually to survive as long as possible, or defeat a final boss. DRG Survivor is a bit different. You drop into a level, run around killing bugs, collecting experience and leveling up, like I mentioned, but you're also mining gold and other minerals and trying to complete optional objectives. One of the first big differences from games like Vampire Survivors or Halls of Torment is that instead of being locked to a single map, you move through 5 smaller arenas. The way it works is that at the top of the screen you'll see a progress bar. The more bugs you kill, the faster it fills. Once it's maxed out, a boss spawns that signals the end of the level. There's no time limit to defeat the boss, but the longer it stays alive, the tougher the enemies become. Once you defeat it, a timer starts counting down. That's your cue to rush back to the drop pod and reach the next level before it leaves you behind. Each run takes you through 5 arenas and ends with a showdown against a dreadnought. Beat that and you win. Another big way the game differentiates itself is through level manipulation. You, being a dwarf, love to mine. Every class can tunnel through walls in the environment. It's such an awesome mechanic and adds so much to the game. You can create natural choke points or quickly dig through walls to escape a bad situation. Some of the larger bugs and bosses can also plow through the level, just to make sure you never get too comfortable in your little holes. And speaking of the bugs, there's a decent variety, and most of the enemies from DRG proper show up here. Many of them are small filler bugs that swarm you, but some have special abilities like spitting acid at you or healing and buffing bugs around them. My favorite has to be the Exploder. It's damn near sexual, killing a cluster of them and clearing the whole screen in a chain reaction. One thing I wish the game had a bit more variety with is the bosses, especially the final dreadnoughts. Right now, there are only 2 different dreadnought types you face at the end of each run. It gets old after a bit, and I really hope they add a few more in the future. Also, outside of the dreadnought, the other bosses usually aren't that much of a challenge. One strategy I kept using was calling in a supply pod right on top of their heads. It either killed them outright or did massive damage to them. This seemed to work no matter what hazard level I picked. Speaking of that, let's jump into level selection and classes next. You start by selecting a biome. Each one is slightly different. For example, the salt pits are filled with easily mineable salt walls, while the magma core has lava floors that hurt you if you stand on them for too long. They usually include a few unique enemies too, but the gameplay is mostly the same across all of them. Next, you pick a hazard level. The higher the hazard, the stronger the bugs and the more damage you take. But you also find more minerals and earn more credits for finishing the level. So there's a good incentive to play on higher difficulties. To unlock higher hazard levels, you need to complete biome-specific challenges. Some are simple, like leveling 2 weapons up to 18 or standing still for 45 seconds. Others are more difficult, and if I'm being honest, more annoying. I especially dislike the ones that make you collect a certain number of minerals. Because the levels are randomly generated, you can't be sure there will be enough to finish the challenge. Another one I did not like had you heal 200 HP in a single level, so you have to both take damage on purpose and hope there's enough healing items to actually do it. If it were all optional, it would be fine, but tying these challenges directly to unlocking new levels and hazard difficulties is a bit annoying. Next up are the classes. It's all the guys you know and love from DRG proper. You got the Scout, who focuses on dodging and speed, the Gunner, a heavy weapons expert, the Engineer, who can place turrets and use drones, and the Driller, who has a flamethrower and can quickly tunnel through walls. They all feel viable, but some like the Engineer and Gunner are more direct and easier to deal damage with. It might just be a me thing, but I find the Driller to be the weakest by far. He relies a lot on damage over time weapons, but they barely do anything early on. Compared to the Gunner, who just melts enemies, I don't really see a reason to pick him outside of finishing certain missions. The classes also all have their own weapon pools and subclasses, which can be permanently upgraded by completing special milestone missions, and I have no complaints here. The missions are usually bite-sized, and I think it's a great system for slowly making each class feel more powerful. Another way to power up is through permanent upgrades in the main menu. This is where you dump your credits and materials collected during runs to upgrade different stats, like health, mining speed, and damage, and so on. The game also looks great and definitely feels like DRG just from a top-down view. All the bugs, characters and minerals are easily recognizable from a distance, and even when the screen is absolutely filled with bullets and explosions, I never really felt lost. The sound effects are satisfying and the music is great. It's all tracks from Deep Rock Galactic and fit the game perfectly. Same with the voice lines from the dwarves. A lot of it is reused, but the devs also added some new stuff. Speaking of new stuff, the game includes a bunch of weapons and equipment that I would honestly love to see in the main game, like the flamethrower turret. I've heard the game has some performance issues when a lot is going on. My PC is pretty powerful, so I didn't notice anything here, but on the Steam Deck I definitely felt it. It's not terrible, and turning down the graphics fixed the issue, but it also made the game look kinda awful. Other than that, I feel like the game is well worth it in its current state and already feels like a complete product. I'm like 20 hours into it at the moment, and compared to its initial release, there's so much to do and unlock. I can definitely see myself dumping way more hours into this. It's planned to hit 1.0 in September of this year, and the developers have talked about adding gear that will allow you to tweak the characters even more. My main complaints aren't really with the gameplay itself, it's more about the lack of boss variety. I really hope they add some more bosses to the game, because fighting the same two final bosses gets boring really fast. I also hope they tweak the classes and weapons a bit more, or give us more reason to use some of the weaker ones, especially when the Gunner and his minigun are just so reliable. Deep Rock Galactic Survivor is a great example of how to take an existing IP and drop it into a completely different genre and actually make it work. It's still in early access, but it feels great to play. Yeah, there are some issues and room for improvement, but what is here is fun, polished, and incredibly addictive. If you're into games like this or just want more Deep Rock Galactic in your life, this one's absolutely worth checking out. And as always, thank you for watching.